Hey you guys, Miss Joseph here. I am so sorry that it took me so long to get back to you. I got a new teaching job. I teach 7th grade science now, and I have just been crazy busy. So that is why I've been gone. But I am here to share with you more of The White Giraffe by Lauren St. John. We are on chapter 14, and if I ever don't do videos for a while, there is another lady on YouTube that does read alouds, and she's really good. I put her information in one of the comments of the chapter 13 video. So if you would like to watch those instead, I would highly recommend that. Very good reader, all good things. So if you'd like to keep listening here though, chapter 14, there is our picture. And we will just go ahead and get started. All right. The combination of Alex's bizarre behavior and the bone-crushing snares Tendai had destroyed in the valley had unnerved Martine so much that rather than waiting for the White Giraffe to find her, as she'd promised herself she would, she became determined to find him again. For once, luck was on her side. 8 days after the outing with Tendai, a Sunday, her grandmother received a call to say that a close friend of hers had been rushed to the hospital. The hospital was in Somerset West, a couple of hours' drive away, and Gwen Thomas would have to spend the night. She wanted to take Martine with her, but Martine convinced her that it would be much better if she stayed in Sawabona. Again, I don't know if I'm saying these things right, so you'll have to bear with me. Oh, my nose. Sorry. I don't want to be tired for school in the morning. That's true, although I'm surprised to hear you say so, retorted her grandmother. But in any case, I'll be worried about you here on your own. I won't be on my own, Martine assured her. Warrior and Shelby will keep me company, and if I am scared, I can call Tendai. Besides, I have got homework I need to finish. At 2 o'clock, she waved goodbye to her grandmother, smiling what she hoped was her most trustworthy smile. That in itself made Gwen Thomas suspicious, and before half an hour had gone by, Tendai was at the door, checking up on her. Luckily, Martine, who really did have a school project to finish, was already sitting at the dining room table, surrounded by books, so she had no difficulty convincing Tendai that she was absolutely fine. I'll phone you in a second if I'm not, she promised. Homework done, she went up to her room, shut the curtains on the afternoon sunshine, set the alarm, and hopped into bed. She had a long night ahead of her, and she needed all the sleep she could get. So right there, we're at our little break right there. I'm going to push pause on the video just for a second, and then I'll be right back. All right, we're rolling again. Sorry, I had to take care of my allergies and stuff. So, here we go. It was 1 a.m. when Martine entered the game reserve, nerves tingling, and she knew within seconds that there was going to be trouble. She crouched down in the thick grass and scanned the bush carefully. Lights were flickering in the trees. At this hour, that meant one of two things. At best, it was Tendai or Alex patrolling the reserve, in which case, if she was discovered and her grandmother heard about her escapade, her life would no longer be worth living. At worst, it was a gang of poachers, possibly even her grandfather's killers. Either way, it was a monumental disaster. Unable to get back without being seen, she used the grass as cover to make it as far as the trees, and then flung herself under a clump of bushes. Presently, she heard voices. The men were speaking softly, but it was a fine night, and the sound traveled clearly over the water. I'm telling you, man, this better not be another one of your wild goose chases, said one. If we don't deliver this thing very soon, The name was lost in the wind. Is going to get ugly. He's not used to being kept waiting. When have I ever let you down? A second voice demanded. I'll find that blasted animal if it's the last thing I do. The voices came nearer, and one of the men stepped out of the trees. He walked to the water's edge and squatted to examine the mud with his flashlight. Bullseye! He crowed. Another man emerged from the shadows. Martine tried to get a good look at him, but despite the full moon, he was too far away to be anything other than an indistinct silhouette. What's up? Giraffe tracks, the first man replied. He stood up. Now all we have to do is find the giraffe. Uh-oh. There was a whisper of leaves, and Martine whipped around in fright. It was Jemmy. Unheard, which the other lady said was Jimmy, so I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but it's Jemmy. I'm going to say Jemmy. You do whatever you want to do. It was Jemmy. Unheard, the giraffe had crept up almost beside her, and now he loomed over her, outlined like a shimmering white giant against the blue-black sky. His eyes were locked on the two men. "Jemmy," Martine whispered, "you've got to go. Run. Get lost." He didn't move. "Jemmy," hissed Martine as loudly as she dared. "Run!" The white giraffe seemed to notice her for the first time. His liquid black eyes swept from her to the men, back again, and back again. He was shaking. Every inch of his body was poised for flight, but something was stopping him. Abandoning all thought for her own safety, Martine jumped from her hiding place. "Go, Jemmy," she pleaded, drumming her fists against his leg. "You've got to go." The white giraffe shoved her purposely with his nose. That's when it hit Martine. He wanted her to come with him. "There it is!" cried one of the men, and Martine went cold with terror. Behind her she could hear shouts and the high-pitched whine of an engine firing into life. There was no escape. In a matter of minutes, she and Jemmy would be caught. Unless... "Jemmy!" yelled Martine, and she ran to the nearest climbable tree. For several petrifying moments, it seemed as if Jemmy was not going to follow her, but all of a sudden he did. Martine pulled herself up on the highest branch she could reach. There was no time to think. In particular, there was no time to think about how she'd never ridden any animal, not even a Shetland pony, and that she wasn't all that good at riding a bicycle. She simply swung onto Jemmy's back and grabbed a handful of mane. That's the hair that's on the neck. At least it is on a horse. I think it's the same on the giraffe. The first panic surge of the white giraffe nearly sent Martine flying. Self-preservation stopped her from falling off. Before she could adjust to the fact that she was 10 feet off the ground, on the same level as a startled owl, they were bolting into the night. Martine leaned forward, the way she'd seen horse riders do in England, gripped with her legs, and tried to avoid looking down. They swept through the darkness at an incredible speed, the giraffe galloping with a rhythmic, rocking horse stride. How he avoided colliding with the overhead branches or getting a hoof caught in a root was a mystery to Martine. Nevertheless, once she got used to his sloping back, she found it surprisingly easy to ride him. He was broad and comfortable, and his fur was like satin. Soon it seemed like the most natural thing in the world to be racing through the moonlight on the back of a young giraffe. The sound of the men died behind them. After a while, Martine could hear nothing but the wind in her ears and the sharp cries of the night birds as they flashed by. Gradually, the trees gave way to open grassland, and she could make out the shadows of the game reserve animals and smell the sweet smell of the bush at night. Zebras looked up, blinking as they passed. A bush baby swung torch-like eyes at them, and a couple of lionesses bounded after them hungrily before stopping to lie and wait for easier prey. About a quarter of an hour, they reached the lower slopes of the mountain that marked Sawbona's northern boundary, and Jemmy slowed to a walk. His neck was wet with sweat, and he was breathing hard, like a galloping racehorse. He seemed to be searching for something. Martine was so exhilarated by the experience of riding a giraffe that at first she barely took in her surroundings. It was awesome, if a little vertigo-inducing, to see the world from this height. So she was a little bit like, whoa, but it was really cool. When she did look around, she found that they were in a barren clearing, littered with rocks and shale at the base of a granite cliff. An air of desolation hung over the place. Usually the African night was alive with the sound of, I'm going to say this wrong. You'd think the science teacher would be able to get this. Cicadas, the I know I've heard that word 1,000 times, but for some reason I'm struggling. I'm going to say cicadas and hope that I'm right. So usually the African night was alive with the sound of cicadas, frogs, and nocturnal creatures, but this area seemed devoid of any life. Even the temperature seemed lower. Nothing grew here apart from a single twisted tree. Oh, that's a tree that was at the beginning of the chapter, which had taken root in the cliff itself and was shrouded in a tangled mass of moss and parasitic creepers. Due no doubt to the gales that ripped around the mountain, it had grown stunted and misshapen over the years, and now Martine thought it was a shudder. It stood among the boulders like a sinister sentinel. Goodness, I am struggling with this sentence. She couldn't think why the white giraffe had brought her to this awful place, but he seemed very agitated. She began to feel concerned. So it went from her thinking that, like, wow, it's so cool to see everything at this site or at this height, and now she's seeing like this kind of creepy stuff and was like, ooh, I don't know why you brought me here. So she began to feel concerned. Through the night came the rumble of an engine. Oh no. It was heading straight toward them. A searchlight swept the slopes above their heads, so those people are about to find them. Jemmy, Martine cried, what are you doing? We've got to get away. Beneath her, she felt the white giraffe's hindquarters bunch as if he were preparing for a mighty leap. That was not going to be good. Martine put her arms around his neck and hung on for all she was worth. Until that moment, she'd been too full of the miracle of the ride to wonder where Jemmy was taking her or what would happen when they got there. Now, reality was setting in. She dreaded to think of how many bones she would break if she did crash to the ground, or indeed how she'd manage to crawl home and explain her injuries to her grandmother. Assuming, of course, that she wasn't eaten, bitten, stung, trampled, gored, or shot by poachers along the way. But there was no time to think about any of that now. From standing, Jemmy took 6 breathtakingly fast strides and an enormous leap. In the instant before the jeep burst into the clearing and the world went black, Martine understood why Tendai had never been able to follow his tracks. The white giraffe had simply evaporated into thin air. Oh, this was crazy! And that brings us to chapter 15. Oh my goodness. I hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. That was really cool. I will try to get better at reading these to you, but again, if not, that other lady on YouTube that does these, if you just search the White Giraffe Read Aloud, she has all the chapters and she is phenomenal. So I hope that you have a great day, and I look forward to reading with you guys again. Bye.